We've now begun to look at some of the many problems with naturalism. We started off by considering the fact that scientists today have no real explanation for how the universe began.
So this is just wrong. There are explanations out there. For one example, there's Stephen Hawking's no boundary proposal. Talks about how the universe began. There's also theories from Roger Penrose. You can look these up. Secondly, even if there were no explanations for how the universe began, that's not necessarily a problem for naturalism. It just means there's no explanation yet. It doesn't throw a wrench into science or naturalism. Anyway, let's move on.
We also considered how naturalists say that in all the universe there was no life at the start, but then life suddenly came into existence all by itself about 3.6 billion years ago.
This is the same problem. There are theories out there, but let's say there was no theories about this. It's not necessarily a problem for science or naturalism. Just because you don't know something isn't a problem. Sure, like you want to know what happened. That doesn't throw science out the window just because you don't know what happened yet. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that we used to not know, and now we do know.
But what you can't find is an actual scientific, fact-based explanation of how it all started.
Again, wrong. There's plenty of theories about this. Look them up.
Where did that first living organism come from? And how did it reproduce?
Look it up. There's a bunch of explanations for this. You've got like self-replicating molecules that came about. The exact mechanisms for how it happened are where the theories come in.
No one knows. Another big problem. And then we
Not
also
a problem.
considered the fact that the laws of nature only came into existence after the universe came into existence, which means
you don't know that. The laws of nature could have pre-existed the universe. This is a claim that you're making. This is this guy's theory. Whatever this guy's name is, I don't know his name.
Means it's impossible for the universe to be created by those laws of nature.
No. In fact, Stephen Hawking, who I just talked about, shows that the universe could have been created from the laws of nature, from gravity. He's quoted as saying, because there is a law such as gravity, the universe can create itself out of nothing. Maybe his theory is wrong, but you can't say that there aren't theories about this.
The laws of nature can't create themselves. That's nonsense.
No. How do you know? Now you're just making stuff up.
The laws of nature exist only because matter and energy exist.
No.
Without matter.
What? Again, you're just making, this is just you. Like, you would need a proof for this. Like, this would be interesting. Like, if this was actually true. Well, for all of these, but I mean, this would be especially interesting in my opinion. Make a mathematical proof for this. Do it. Do it. You won't.
To look at a couple more scientific problems with the view of naturalism. Remember that naturalism is a scientific model that attempts to explain how everything got here without the involvement of God.
Yeah, sure. Let me ask you, how does adding God to an explanation assist with understanding?
And since it is a scientific model, it makes many predictions that we can consider and then assess whether it is correct as a model. So,
if you're trying to understand the mechanics of your car or an atom, if you just start inserting, well, God does this part, it stops you from being able to understand it any further. You can still believe in God or whatever, but if you're trying to understand the mechanics of something in the natural world, you can't put this roadblock in front of your understanding. It's going to stop you from investigating the full depth of the mechanics. So yeah, you do have to explain things without mysticism.
There are other problems. According to what we know about this process, whenever energy converts into matter, it always produces something called antimatter.
There has got to be some kind of asymmetry between matter and antimatter. And this is actually something that's being investigated at CERN. There's an experiment called LHC-b that's looking for this particular asymmetry. And they've found some evidence. Look it up.
You may have heard of something called particle colliders, like the Hadron Collider in Geneva, Switzerland.
Yep.
These are huge machines that accelerate and smash protons into each other at very high speeds.
Yeah, got that right.
Close to the speed of light.
Yep.
And when this happens, to put it simply, we learn that Einstein's predictions are correct. Energy is matter, and matter is energy.
Well, more precisely, energy is mass, and mass is energy. Energy and mass are the same thing. You can think of E equals mc squared as a unit conversion formula.
When these very high-speed collisions occur, it releases energy, and some of the energy produced is converted into matter, like another proton. But what we also observe is that whenever a new proton is formed from these high-speed collisions, there is also something else formed called an antiproton.
Yeah, as far as we can tell. Yeah.
Both matter and antimatter are produced. All our scientific observations tell us this. Whenever energy converts into matter, it also produces the same amount of antimatter.
Yeah, for the collisions that we can produce. But you have to keep in mind that the collisions produced at the LHC are relatively low energy compared to the Big Bang. And we have some evidence from LHCb that there is some asymmetry between matter and antimatter. And maybe at higher energy scales, this asymmetry becomes more pronounced. So you can't just rule that out.
Okay, well, if that's true, and if energy converted into matter in the Big Bang, then obviously there should be antimatter everywhere.
Yeah, people acknowledge this. This is a well-established conundrum.
Universe. There should be tons of it.
Yep.
We can see all the matter, the stars, the planets, and galaxies, but what we don't at all observe is all the antimatter that should be there. Where is it? If the universe really started with a Big Bang, then it should have created matter and antimatter in equal proportion.
Seemingly.
Almost no antimatter.
But like I said, we got some signs that there's some asymmetry. That could give us an explanation for why there's more matter than antimatter.
At all in the universe. What happened? Where did it all go? No one knows.
Yeah, no one knows. We don't know yet.
Now let's look at one other problem we run into with naturalism because it also has to do with matter. Currently, according to the naturalism model, there appears to be about 22% of the universe that consists of a type of matter that we're not able to detect or observe at all.
We can detect and observe it in indirect ways, like see the gravitational lensing caused by dark matter. You're about to talk about dark matter. I recognize the 22%.
There appears to be signs of it, and we think it's there, but we can't see it or measure it. This is something scientists have called dark matter.
Yeah, we can see it indirectly, like I said, from gravitational lensing and from its effects on galaxy rotation. So galaxies should be flung apart at the rate that they're rotating from centripetal force, but they're not. They remain bound together. So that means that there's more mass. And so there's different theories about dark matter. There's theories that there is a type of matter that doesn't interact with light or really any other field other than gravity. So this makes it really hard to detect. Right? If it doesn't interact with anything other than gravity, you're going to have a hard time detecting that in a collider. And this is a well-established problem. Right? Dark matter searchers acknowledge this.
My point is this, though. For those who believe in a creator, none of this is any problem. Because first, the universe didn't come into existence by a big bang of energy. God created it from nothing. So there's no need for more antimatter in the creation model. And this is fine scientifically, because as far as we can...
All right. We don't know what happened, therefore God did it. Great. That really lends to understanding. Thanks.
Antimatter doesn't exist in the sufficient quantities to support the Big Bang. Second, in the creation model, the galaxies don't need extra matter to keep them together. God does that. It says in Hebrew...
What are you going to do when we find the dark matter particle? Oh, you're going to back away from that statement, probably. Or act like dark matter doesn't exist, just like you probably don't think evolution happened. If you're trying to understand the natural world and you just start putting God or whatever in, it's not going to assist your understanding into the mechanics.
So God is the one holding it all together. Maybe one day we will find out more about what's happening in space, or maybe we won't. But we certainly don't need to find an explanation to missing antimatter and mysterious.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't care, fine. But, these need to be explained if you want to, understand the universe. If you just, we don't need an explanation, just put God in there. This isn't science. This is what you guys always do, creationists.
Dark matter, because we have an explanation in Scripture. God created it all, and He is the one holding everything in His creation.
You can believe in God and everything, that's fine, but to be like, oh, we don't need to know about this. This doesn't need to be explained because God did it. You're not advancing us further in understanding the universe when the asymmetry of antimatter is explained and dark matter is discovered. What are you going to do? What, like you in particular, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to feel about it? You're going to treat that discovery the same way you treat evolution? Or are you going to back away from the statement? We'll see.